Hello, everyone. My name is Tasman, otherwise known as the Aspiring Kryptonian, and today I'm bringing you an interview with a renowned comic book writer, and I guess we can say comic book artist now. He is the genius behind Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. He's currently taken on Wonder Woman and is responsible for so many excellent titles from past and present. It's Tom King. Tom, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. It's an honor. How you doing?
It's an honor for me. I love watching you on Instagram. I love the passion you bring from the very beginning to this Superman project, and I incredibly appreciate like the spirit of like engaging everyone, and just how excited you make me about the movies and the TV shows and the characters and the comics, and you do great work. So I appreciate it's very much appreciated.
Well, thank you. That's really sweet coming from you. I want to touch a little bit about everything that you've been working on currently, including Wonder Woman, Trinity, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, of course, and some of the upcoming DC projects, if that's okay.
Of course.
So we'll start with Wonder Woman and Trinity. So honestly, I'm used to reading Superman comics only. So I'm in the middle of writing my own Superman reading order, which is ongoing. It's been going for years. But because of that, I've kind of stuck to one character just so I can get ahead. But recently, and
Makes total sense.
but in the past sort of year or two, I've been delving into other characters, and Wonder Woman was one of the first ones that I did, and that was when you first started the comic series, which I actually absolutely love, by the way.
Oh, very kind. Thank you.
And one thing I'll never forget, actually, which I'm sure you would want to forget because you were quite embarrassed when it happened, but I was at the New York Comic Con panel when you did the impression of what you thought Wonder Woman would sound like.
Oh no, you were there for that? Oh no. Oh
I
God, I was
recorded
hoping
it.
that
I
you
have
know
a
you did
video.
not. Oh no, there's
Don't worry, I'm
video
not.
evidence.
I won't share it, but I just wanted to let you know that I was there, and that's part of the reason that actually made me read the series.
Really, so what incredible marketing to know the little voices in my head. Yes, I do voices for all of my characters when it's horribly embarrassing. If I'm riding on a plane or a train, I'll start mumbling in voices. People must think I'm absolutely insane with my headphones in, doing all sorts of weird accents, and none of which are good. By the way,
I don't know, because
yes.
whenever I think of Wonder Woman speaking, it's kind of in the back of my head now. It's sort of implanted in there.
There, that's my true legacy. Yes, this one terrible, terrible Wonder Woman impression.
Um, what made you want to take on Wonder Woman?
Uh, I mean, first of all, they asked me to, which is always a pleasant. Uh, I I had done a long run on Batman years ago, where I did 85 issues of Batman, and then sort of jumped off the ongoing comics train, and so I was just doing these kind of specials, things like Supergirl, Human Target, Helen of Windhorn, these mini series that kind of were like these little elevated mini series that took place next to continuity, but not in continuity. And I did those for many years and loved them. It's the most fun. I just very much enjoy them. But I was doing the one thing a writer should never do, which is I got comfortable.
Mm.
Um, and whenever these are rules for myself, not for everyone. When I find myself getting comfortable, I'm always comfortable. Like lives right next to lazy, right next to easy, right next to taking it, taking not advantage of a situation, but just like not putting your all into it. If you're not scared, if you're not freaked out, if you know exactly what you're doing and you're just doing it, what's the point? You want to just challenge yourself and go off another cliff.
Yeah.
And it was at that point that they sort of said, what about coming back to ongoing continuity, not just ongoing with taking on Wonder Woman? And it immediately scared the crap out of me. She's a very hard character to write, as I'm sure I've talked about many times. And so my first instinct was no. And then my second instinct was that's the problem you're having, Tom, is you're looking for the thing that's hard, that's challenging, that's scary. And I was like, here it is. Here's a big, hard challenge.
Yeah.
Can you do it? And then I was like, yeah. And once I triple dog dared myself, then I was in.
And well, we've had Danny Samper on the podcast that we used to do previously. He's lovely, and he's
Oh, the nicest guy ever.
yeah, he's such an incredible artist as well. How did he become attached to the project, and what was it like working with him?
I mean, Danny's absolutely brilliant. We've been together now almost 40. We're working now because we're a little ahead, almost 40 issues. Um, yeah, I mean, as soon as they put Danny on, I knew they were. He's a very much a modern day George Perez. Um, I've talked about this a lot before. One of the things when I was making the big decision was I went to George Perez's funeral, and George Perez obviously he knew he was going to pass
Yeah.
months in advance, and he had made a video about his funeral, and And part of the video was talking about what he's most proud of in comics, and he talked about being on Wonder Woman was things he's most proud of because it was so hard.
Mm.
And of course, a normal person would be like, "Oh my God, this is a sentimental moment." But as an arrogant writer, I was like, "He's calling me out. He's calling me a coward at his own funeral." Um, and so, but of course, what George Perez does that I can't do is he draws like the angels, and so I could never bring that. But when they told me Danny about it, I was like, oh, now I have sort of that half of the equation. I mean, no one, don't get me wrong, no one can do what Perez could do, but Danny can do his own thing at or near that level, which has made the whole run so special. He brings so much, and not just to the art. Obviously, the art is beautiful and slick and powerful, but he does a lot of the storytelling. He's never afraid to push back and be like, "How about this? How about this?" And he knows exactly what he's doing, and his suggestions are always wonderful. So he's contributing to the storytelling at every single level, and I'm grateful for it.
So it's really like collaborative. It's not just you giving him the script and telling him what you want on the pages. He's involved in that as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, no. Danny is someone who can say no. No, no, Tom, no. This is how we should do it the other way. But I've probably because I have no ability to draw, like zero ability to draw.
Don't put yourself.
Uh, I've never been one who's going to note an artist, being like, no, 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 draw at this angle, draw that, or try. To me, like once you've kind of, it's like how Hitchcock was a director. Once he hired an actor, he's like, I'm not going to give them direction. That's why I hired them. That's always my idea with artists. Once they're on board, you know, I'll do my half, you do your half, and that's the book. It's collaboration seems too easy of a thing, but I let them make their art because that elevates any art I make.
Yeah. And so it's starting with the Sovereign story arc. We can really see Wonder Woman's tenacity and patience in this section in particular, so that she constantly uses the no thank you, which is a response that I loved. And regardless of how angry the person she was talking to is, or whatever the action is against her, that was always her response, so calm and so calculated. How did you come up with that specific, well, I suppose it's a simple phrase, but what made that phrase stick?
I wanted to give Wonder Woman has less catchphrases than Superman and Batman, both of whom I've written extensively. She has some, but mostly are like jumping Jove and kind of these kind of silly things she says. Um, and so I wanted to give her like a good catchphrase, a good, a good enough said, by the thing. And I was writing if you read the first issue, Wonder Woman doesn't pitch up page 18, which is very sort of radical at the time to sort of not have her appear in her own book because I was building the tension until she gets there. And I had this blank. I was like, I know this is going to be the catchphrase, and I was sort of debating this and that. But I just like the idea because sometimes the most powerful thing anyone can do is just say no. Is just be like, I know you think the world is supposed to be that way, but it's not. I know you think you are in control of me, but you're not. I have my own power. I have my own will. I have my own way. And but also the thank you is also part of Wonder Woman because she can use it in so many different ways where it's like she's not someone. Wonder Woman is different than Superman and Batman in a lot of ways, but like she's not about the fight. She's about the love, right? She's not. It's a tragedy that she has to spend her whole life punching people. Batman, I think, on some level enjoys the punching. Superman, on some level, I think enjoys the chaos of it. For Wonder Woman, that's tragic. That's not how she was raised. That's not the Amazonian way. That's not what she gives. Um, and it's the idea that she says no, but she says thank you. She says it in this sort of polite way that can be sarcastic at times, but the idea of like, I respect you. I respect that your world exists, but my world exists too, and my world is very powerful. And so that's sort of the no thank you.
And I think it kind of builds up, like a way you say it starts off really what's the word? Not sentimental, but really I can't think of the word, but she means it, what she says. She's being polite,
Yes.
but then she does
Yes.
sort of use it in sarcasm. She kind of builds her confidence in that way with that. We also saw those traits in the Mouse Man story, and compared to the last time that I saw that character, your spin on it was quite dark.
He had not been seen too many times before then. I think he
Yeah.
had two other appearances. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I went back and researched what he originally looked like, and you could laugh at him in terms of what he dressed like and some of the things that he did and the way he was. But now he's terrifying. Where did that idea come from, and why did you want to reinvent such an unknown villain?
Uh, I mean, I wanted to write a little bit about, a lot of the themes of the book has been sort of freedom versus fascism. the idea of Wonder Woman representing the idea that you can be who you want to be, you can be self-determined, and her going against these forces that are like, no, you have to conform to another way. And that was very much from the beginning. It was like conformity versus rebellion. Um, and so this was Sovereign was one form of fascism, sort of the old secret societies, sort of the things that are ingrained in us. Um, Mouse Man is another form of that. Eventually, we get to Matriarch, who's another form of that. So you're sort of kind of seeing aspects of um, people who are against free and people who want to control your life. And I sort of wanted to take that, to the extreme, sort of the 1984 Big Brother of it all. And I had this idea that like the ultimate control of people is to control language. And we've seen this many times with free think and all that in 1984 and stuff. But I was like, I could see, like how sort of a dictator starts with outlawing, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that, and you can't say this. And in comics, we always take the metaphor to the extreme. So I was like, I had a character in my head who's like, we're gonna do a thing where he's like, I'm gonna ban all language except two phrases that you're allowed to say because that's all I'm gonna give you. Um, One phrase, uh, which means that I'm the best, and another phrase that means I'm watching you, which is mouse man knows and mice men have ear, and mouse man has ears. Um, and he's like, and that's all you're allowed to use to construct your whole life. And how people under fascism find a way to live even under those rules as they have from time immemorial. And so designing a society where Mouse Man has kind of done that um, was the idea. And I think and the idea is a lot of fascism is on its face absurd and stupid. And then you're like, oh my God, you're all wearing silly costumes and doing silly things with your hands. And it's like all very playful and stupid until it becomes horrible and horrifying. And so I wanted to take something that was really stupid, the idea of a guy dressed as a mouse, and have him project that into this sort of horrifying landscape. So
Well, you succeeded. And you mentioned the matriarch, and what I love about this is that as we've been progressing in the series, you've kind of teased her. She's a formidable character that we can see already. Tell us a little about her and why you and Danny created the character.
I mean, we were trying to get from the beginning sort of a villain that was on the Joker Lex Luthor level for Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman does, she has Cheetah, but her relationship with Cheetah is a lot more complicated than Batman's relationship with Joker, Superman's relationship with Lex, although those have nuances too. Um, but Cheetah can be good and can be bad, and she's a much more three-dimensional character than, say, the Joker.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, and I wanted to create someone that was more villainous than Cheetah, but who could match Wonder Woman in a fight, and had that same anger in her, just so I could see that. And that's sort of where the idea of Matriarch came, and sort of having this sort of deep, longing hatred, giving her a long origin story where you slowly meet her. And, Wonder Woman humiliates her father, and her mother dies under her protection. She has all these reasons to sort of be the anti-Wonder Woman. And so it was about building that character. And then again, that sort of another aspect of fascism, sort of another view of this sort of three-finger guy. You think of like Sovereign as sort of the secret, stuff that haunts you, and Mouseman is the most obvious, the matriarch is like with a smile, she's just like she's friendly and happy, and she has much more popular support than the other two. She doesn't need she's actually won a following, but she's a horrible person, just like Lex Luthor and the Joker. She's just as just as horrifying as those two characters, as we've seen already. I mean, she killed
Yeah.
the entire Justice League in the future, um, and as we'll keep seeing in the comics. So yeah, that's the idea, to create an anti-Wonder Woman was the. I'm not the first person to do that, but this is my take on it.
Okay. And how did the design process go? Because she's got a pretty cool look.
Oh, it was actually a little bit more, a little harder than you think. I mean, it was. I mean, basically what I said was evil Disney princess. I mean, that was basically
Yeah,
what I
that
was.
describes it perfectly, actually.
Yes. But we went through a lot of iterations to kind of simplify her. Danny never, one of the things of the great artists is there, and this is George Perez is guilty as anybody, is to do something like, this is something I could only draw in this amazing way. And you're like, no, Danny, we want thousands of artists following us to also draw it. So it's a matter of sort of simplifying and tearing down some of what only Danny could draw to something anyone could draw in an incredibly compelling way. And also, like, when you think Disney Princess, think very like colors. And I very much wanted, Wonder Woman is such a primary color. It's these blues and yellows and reds, and I wanted her to be black and white, and to have that sort of just a contrast and make this sort of the anti Wonder Woman. But yeah, so that it was those three factors: simplicity, anti Wonder Woman, and evil Disney princess.
Yeah, that pretty much nails it. She, like I said, she's done a lot of things already, pretty formidable things that we would never expect to see of a new villain like this. What can you tell us about her future? What's coming up for her? And Wonder Woman, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we're in this sort of long arc that's going to be about 10 issues called The Wonder War. And we've skipped ahead 20 years to sort of see Trinity where we brought her in our story in the very first issue. Um, and it's a terrible future. Matriarch is in charge. She's killed the entire Justice League. Wonder Woman's the only one left. Um, and it's that thing you get from Terminator where it's like we need to change the past to get to the future. Obviously, that's where we're going. And so, you know, it's Wonder Woman going where she's never has before because she has to save this world. She has to make sure this doesn't happen. She has to make sure she has to stop Matriarch's rise. She has to stop the death of the Justice League. Um, but obviously Matriarch doesn't want her to do that. So thus conflict, um, thus everything I'm writing right now.
Amazing. Well, look, I'm looking forward to that. And you mentioned Trinity. I adore her so far, and I particularly love the
Thank
mini
you.
backup stories in Wonder Woman because that really set the scene for where we are
It's my
in the
favorite.
story arc. What was it like working with Bella Ortega on that?
Oh, she's the best. Belena's so good. Um, there's a side of me, and obviously it's already come out, that I love like serious, sad comic books where people are, talking about fascism and all that stuff. But and that's total, I grew up under Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns, being, I was like that generation who loved that stuff. But there's the other side of me that grew up loving Calvin and Hobbes and Peanuts and Bloom County and Far Side and like those comic strips. I read those with just the same veracity I read superhero comics. And with these Trinity books, which became the backups in the book, I got to do that side of which I never get to do. I have 1,000 comics books that are out there that are about sad dudes crying out windows. Um, I'm making one Mr. Miracle into a brilliant animated show right now. But the chance to kind of do goofy and to do silly and to show that aspect of comics you get to, and I can't that kind of comics needs a kind of art, a kind of a kinetic art, a kind of sillier art, a looser art, and Belinda brings all of that to her even a little manga influence on it, and just she's an absolutely amazing. I would work with her forever. I'm stunned by what she does with my scripts.
Yeah, I'm fairly new to her, and I think these Trinity mini stories were the first introduction. Then I followed her, and I've seen all of her artwork. She is incredible.
Yeah,
One thing I do love about the mini stories and the series as well is the dynamic between the three. Now, when I say the three, I mean Trinity, Robin, and John Kent. They're hilarious.
yeah.
How do you find writing that in contrast to the stories like Wonder Woman, which are a little bit darker?
I mean, that was the point of creating Trinity. Was I was a big Super Sons fan. That the book that Pete Tomasi did back in the day, and I love the dynamic between John and Damian. And then I was like, well, we're missing something, right? Because there's just like DC Comics isn't about Batman, Superman. It's Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. That's the Trinity. That's the original Trinity.
Mhm.
And so to give them um, a younger sister seemed utterly perfect to me. And I should say I have three children. I have two boys and a girl. They're not in that same order, but that's like the dynamic of my household. So that's what I wanted to see. Yeah, I mean I never have more fun than when I'm writing John and Damien and little Lizzie just having fights and because they're, Damien always thinks he's in control. John is always actually in control, and Lizzie is an agent of chaos that's
Yeah.
driving them both insane. It's no, I know it's the first I've written comics for so many years. My kids are like, comics, who cares? It's the when I bring those home, all three of them, different ages, different likes. They're like, that's the one I want to read, and they read those comics. Sometimes I write for huge audiences. Those times I'm just writing for my kids,
I
and they
bet they
seem to
can see
like it.
themselves in the characters though as well. That's probably why they enjoy it as well.
Oh, 100% they steal. And I the whole story is about corgis, and we have a dog, and so they see their dog in a lot of it. Yeah, they love it.
Yeah,
And they love talking about them. I pitch gags to them. I was like, I'm doing this. The corgi's gonna have a stick in his hand and knock down the Batmobile, and they're just like, good. It's like if I can make them laugh, I put it in the comic.
I've got a 4-year-old and it's not quite as chaotic as three, but I can imagine what the dynamic's like. There's a lot of that in my
Oh
house as
no,
well.
it's all chaos. Having a
And
4-year-old is
yeah.
crazy.
And speaking of the dogs, one of my favorite things was the super corgis. That was just genius. Where did that come from?
I was with Belen at New York Comic Con at a bar, and every writer asks their artist the same stupid question, which is, "What do you want to draw?" And because it takes me a week to write a script, it takes them 2 months to draw. It's like I should take into mind what they want to do. It's more of
Yeah.
their life than mine. But I was like, "What do you want to draw? Anything like I can write a story. These three characters fit into every story. I can put whatever you want to do, I'll do." And she's like, "I really want to draw samurais and corgis." And we were samurais. I was like, I had no idea. How am I gonna I was thinking she'd say I want to draw, like a horse race, or I want to draw Superman, or I want to draw, yeah, like a super. I was like, I could, I hadn't- so. I was like, okay, samurais and corgis, and I found a way. If you look, there's a samurai story, and then I was like, how do I do a corgi story with super? I was like, what if the two I don't know. You're just like you. What if John and Damien get turned into corgis and she has to take care of it? That was the stupid idea that popped, which is the dumbest idea anyone's ever had. I was like,
It
fuck
is,
it, it's
but it's
great.
the best. I love
Sorry.
it.
Yes. And then I started, and then as soon as I saw how she drew corgis and how fun and how expression, I was like, okay, we're doing a whole series about these guys. That's what.
And I also loved Trinity. Obviously, we've got the three different ages. We've got the younger, the middle, and then the older version. I loved seeing the relationship with Robin. Obviously, we know his fate eventually, but I loved seeing them together. Will we get any more of that?
Oh yes, if I have any say in it, I would just write those characters forever. Yeah, yeah. As if we could get that. That becomes from it's back in the 50s and 60s. Um, they used to have Wonder Woman adventures, and they'd have Wonder Woman at different times in her life. So it'd be old Wonder Woman, teenage Wonder Woman, and Wonder Tot, and they'd go on adventures together. So this was like a big thing in hundreds of Wonder Woman comics back in the 50s. But it was forgotten about. It turned out to be like someone read it wrong and thought that teenage. It was just them three different time periods of Wonder Woman, but they thought she had a sidekick, and that's where Donna Troy comes from, a misreading of that. Um, that's why Donna Troy has such a terrible or such a bizarre origin story because it was literally two editors not talking to each other. Um, but so this was a little like a shout out to Wonder Woman history by repeating it with her daughter and doing these three different versions. And I just enjoy writing it because I just write my daughter to all those different ages, and they're all Claire. It's just she yells at me. She's like, "This is just me at 3." I was like, "Yeah, I just stole from you. Sorry."
Well, it makes for good stories.
Thank you.
Um, what can you tell us about the future of Trinity? Obviously, we've got the Matriarch story arc where she's involved, but does she have any of her own adventures alongside?
Yeah, I mean she's in this whole Wonder War story. If you've read the first issue that came out, you see that she sort of sacrificed everything to get this weapon for her mother, and now it's sort of her and her mother against the world. And so it'll be the two of them fighting the Matriarch for Wonder War. They're the two sort of main characters of the series. So the future is big and insane for these people, but the goal of it all will be to deliver at the end, um, a trinity of the next generation, so that Lizzie and Damien, um, and John all can kind of stand together as children of their parents.
Okay, ending with Supergirl. I'm say ending, but most of the interview is about Supergirl, so it's
Cool.
we're
That's
not
my
quite
favorite.
there
I'm
yet.
glad we're talking about Supergirl.
I have to say, it's
Have you
probably
heard it's gonna be a movie?
no. I have to say,
Breaking
it's my
news.
favorite take on the character. I've bought every single issue. I've got every single variant cover, some of which I've got signed by yourself, Bilkis and Mateus.
Oh,
But
those are rare. We're not together too often.
and
Those are
well,
rare.
it was San Diego Comic-Con when we met. That's when I got them all signed. But first of all, where did this idea of the story come about, and what was it about Supergirl that drew you to the character?
Um, I mean, it started horribly simply with I was my Batman editor who I loved working with, or a team of editor Jamie Rich and Brittany Holzer, moved from Batman to Superman, and I said I just want to work with you. Do you have any projects? And they're like, well, no one's doing Supergirl. Do you want to do Supergirl? And at the time I was doing these sort of 12 issue series, things like Mr. Miracle, Strange Adventures, Vision. And I was like, yeah, we can do a 12 issue Supergirl. Like, oh, then nobody buys Supergirl, so we can't even give you 12 issues. Like, this
How
is
times have changed.
yes, how times have changed. So they're like six. I was like, how about eight? And that's how we ended up with 8 issues. And so I mean that's just the very beginning of just like trying to work with an editor I liked, which is always good, just chasing talent. Um, but then I was left with the dilemma of like, oh crap, they gave me this Supergirl character, and I had no idea how to approach it. And I would like to say that it was completely organically became sort of the thing it did, but no, I had so much help. Uh, the first big help was, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I had read Supergirl, I'd read Peter David's Supergirl, I'd read Samantha Binder's Supergirl, I had read Jeff Loeb's Supergirl. Um, but I had some trepidations about the character, and I called Steve Orlando, who had worked on Supergirl previously, and I said, he's like, I'm working on Superman. I was like, oh my God, she's the greatest. I was like, is she? She's kind of just a distaff Superman. I don't know. She's what? Because I had just written a big Superman series called Up in the Sky, and I was like, I don't know how to do different than what I just did. Like, I'm just gonna do a superhero with those powers who's nice all the time. And he's like, no, 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 you don't understand. She's totally different than Superman. I was like, no, she's not. And he's like, no, 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 she's Superman was born on Earth. He was raised here. Like that's his whole life is Earth. Kara was born on Krypton. She was 14 when it exploded. And then she went, and then she went on a piece of land and that got blown up. And she's like, she's different. She's been through something. She remembers it. Those were her friends who died. Those were her buildings. Those were her parents. She and at that point, I just saw clear as day what became issue 6, which is just her sitting in a classroom as her world explodes. And I think, I'm of the sort of 9/11 generation. I was, whatever, 21 when it happened. Um, and and obviously changed my life when I joined the CIA afterwards and all that. But um, and I just saw that as sort of just this 9/11 event in her life and how that would just completely change her and change her personality, change how she looked at the entire world. I was like, oh my God, you're right. There's so much depth to that character. Um, so that was step one. Step two, I'm going to blame on my daughter Claire, which is my daughter and I watch old movies together. This is during the pandemic. And we would watch a lot of movies together because you couldn't go anywhere or do anything.
Mhm.
And we were watching at the time old westerns, things like The Searchers, True Grit. Um, and often Westerns are very simple stories about people crossing the plains. I had just written a very simple Superman story about sort of him crossing the plains. And we were watching and I was like, oh, I should just do this as a Western. I've already done this for Superman. It'll become the books can talk to each other. And I was like, a common Western trope is an experienced person, naive, set out across a land. You could look at Red River, you could look at True Grit, you could look at The Searchers. Um, and learn from each other. So like, oh, so that's what this will be. This will be about an experienced person and naive, and they set across on some sort of mission. But I'll do it in space, like I just did the Superman thing in space. And the first pitch was like, well, it's going to be Supergirl, and she'll be the naive, and we'll need some old experienced veteran in space. That'll be Lobo. Lobo will be the veteran in space, and that's what I pitched to those editors I talked to, Brittany Holzer and Jamie Rich. And there was a big pause after I pitched it, and they said, and I think it was Brittany, who's like, well, what if Supergirl is the old grizzled veteran? Which is a brilliant idea. I wish I'd thought of, but no, it was Brittany. And I was like, and that it just immediately, as soon as she said it, I saw the whole book in my head. I combined that with what Steve Orlando had said. I combined it with the Westerns. And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. She's been through something. She's the old. And so I'll just create a new character who's the naive. And she's the one who's exhausted. She's the one who's weary. She's the one who's seen everything.
Yeah.
And she's the one who has to keep going after all of that. And she has to kind of teach something to this kid and then also learn from the kid as well. And that became the book. So it was a combination of Steve Orlando and Brittany Holzer and Claire King, my daughter, to deserve all the credit. And I'm just kind of the vessel who carried it.
You've taken all the glory.
Yes, I've taken all the glory for all their hard work.
I'll touch on Lobo in a second, but why choose to harm the dog in issue 1?
Oh my God. My issue 1 script is out there. I put it on my Substack. I think you can find it if you Google. And you'll see there's a literal editor note after I hurt the dog where I said, "Don't worry, the dog survives." Like I was very clear in the beginning that the dog survives. Spoilers for the book. It's not spoilers. No, it's not a
It's
dead
been
dog
out for a
book.
while.
It's
For the
not.
time.
But also I wouldn't write a superhero story where the dog. I have a dog, my favorite person. Um, I I I mean, I think I'm not the first person to do this, but I have a best friend who's a dog. Her name's Roxy. She's wonderful. Um, and I wanted to come up with sort of an ultimate motivation um, that would drive me to do anything. And this idea that the dog is sick and she has to kind of cure the dog. Um, very much appealed to me. It's stolen from an old story I wrote that was never published about Catwoman trying to save a cat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I should, yeah. And yeah, I wrote this long story where Catwoman has to go on this, sorry, Batman goes on this huge space adventure. He rockets to space and goes to another planet, and he gets enslaved, and he has to fight his way out. And he almost dies, and he does this, and then and it was all to like capture this little crystal, and he flies back home, and it's just like it's just medicine for Catwoman's cat who's sick. Um, uh, yeah, but no, it didn't get published because the artist thought it was so stupid he didn't want to draw it. But I thought it was always thought it was great. Um,
Sounds like a good story.
yeah, I'm telling you, someday it'll come out. Um, so yeah, that was the motivation, was just finding something that, because I mean, the idea was Supergirl does not that that when she first comes across Ruthie's kind of dilemma, she's like, no, that I can't solve every problem. Like that's where she is at the beginning, where she's kind of like, I'm tired of solving people's problems. I have my own effing problems. And then the dog got her involved, and as you see, the final twist in the end is she says, actually, it wasn't the dog, it was you. Um, and so that's how the poor dog. But you, as I said to the editors, as I say to you, the dog was never going to become in any harm.
Just a bit of motivation.
Just
Um,
a bit of, but
well, you
I love how he it's sad to say, but like he doesn't know he doesn't have powers, and like he runs towards these people threaten
yeah,
Supergirl, and that's his person, and Krypto's gonna save her. He doesn't care, and like I to me it's a great dog moment.
it is. You mentioned where she's sort of reluctant at the start to help Ruthie, and then she kind of bonds with her and almost gets maternal with her. Talk us through the relationship and how you found the balance between it, because I think they've both been quite a lot. Supergirl's lost her planet, her people. Ruthie's lost her father. Um, there's a lot going on. So, but there's nice moments where she's sort of teaching her how to have her first piggyback. She's teaching her how to wash her hands. How did you find that balance, and why was that important?
I mean, I think the idea is when you're a teacher, you learn more from your students and they learn from you sometimes. And that's something she does not expect at all, because they basically, I mean, to totally ruin the ending, they go on a writerly way. They start at different points and go on mirroring journeys of each other, where Ruthie starts off wanting revenge, and Supergirl starts off thinking revenge is stupid, just because it's always been sort of told to her because she has to be like her cousin. Um, and then by the end, Supergirl has learned from the journey from Ruthie by seeing this horrible world that Ruthie kind of leads her into, that sometimes revenge is best, that some people deserve to die. And Ruthie has learned the opposite lesson by watching Supergirl go through this journey. She has learned that no, love and compassion can defeat even that emotion. And so the fact that they start in opposite places, go on a journey, and end in opposite places was always sort of the point of the story, that they would learn from each other as they went. I think some of that's just, my experience as a parent, learning from my kids as we go. I think you raise your kids and your kids raise you at the same time, and you both kind of grow together. I think that's where it comes from. But it's also, a literary trope that's been used many times. I'm not going to invent this.
Um, there's sort of an underlying theme, even in Wonder Woman and in Supergirl, where she's constantly underestimated. And there's a few moments where I think one of the people that Superman has imprisoned, or a relative of them, is about to threaten her because he thinks he can take her, sort of thing. Is that
Yes.
intentional, that you wanted to break that sort of stigma for those characters, or specifically Supergirl?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, of course, yeah. I think she's an underestimated character, and it's a little meta, that's a little meta writing where you're just like, you think Superman is the greatest of all time, and Supergirl is like I first thought. Much as I had to learn from Steve the wonder of this character, I thought people inside this story would have that sort of same reaction that I had, where it's like, what are you? You must be weaker because he's Superman and you're Supergirl, in certain people's heads, a girl is less than a man, and not obviously. Um, but for them to learn that lesson, and for her to teach it to them, was one of the joys of the book, one of the great things, yeah. So it was kind of meta, me yelling at myself. You underestimated this character. She is so awesome. She is so cool. And just as I had to learn it, so did bad guys throughout the universe.
Off topic, but who do you think would win in a fight, Superman or Supergirl?
Oh, they would know. Oh.
If they had to.
Um, I wrote a book called Superman Up in the Sky, which is about Superman, and someone asks at the very end, Superman is taking a young, that's like a 6-year-old through space, and she's asking him all sorts of what are the questions you would always ask Superman?
Yeah.
She's asking them and all. And she's like, who would win in a fight, you or Batman? And he's like, well, Batman would obviously win. She's like, what? How? No way, you're Superman. He's like, well, it would mean a lot to him, and I'd let him win. And I think in the same way, I think Kara would let Superman win because it would mean a lot to him.
Bad. Um,
Because she doesn't need it as much as he does.
I'd like to think she's too stubborn to let it go.
Yeah, but I think there's like I like she's not competitive at least in my head, she's not competitive in that way. I
Mm,
think she's by the end of she knows who she is and she knows how awesome she is and she doesn't need a fight with Superman to tell her that in the way that he might. I
yeah,
think just like, that kind of thing.
I know.
Um, it's like I say about like people say I wrote a book called about Mr. Terrific, who I love. And people say he's the third smartest person at DCU. That's kind of the thing they say about him. Because after Lex Luthor and Bruce Wayne. And my line about that was, yeah, well, sometimes if you're running a race and you lap someone, it starts to feel you're in third because they think you're behind them, but you're actually a lap ahead. And I think that's how Supergirl thinks about Superman.
It's a good take. Issue 6 tells the story of the destruction of Krypton in a way that we've never really seen before. It's rare that we get it from Supergirl's perspective, but what was it like to write such a harrowing story? Because some of these moments that we see, well, I don't know if you've taken it from other aspects of stories that depict the destruction of Krypton, but it's the things that I've never really seen before, never read. It was so detailed and it was across pretty much an entire issue. What was that like to write?
I've talked about this before, and it's in the introduction. If you get the extended version of the Supergirl trade, um, but so issue 6, which is my favorite issue, I turned in another version of issue 6, which got rejected, just straight out. You can actually read it if you look. I printed the script, but because of my deadlines at the time, it was during COVID, and I was sort of deadline crazy. I did a comic a week, and I had to write issue 7 that week, and but like 6 is out, so I couldn't push issue 7 max. It's something I had to write 2 comics in a week. I had to write 6 and 7 in one week. Um, which ended up meaning I had to write 6 in basically a day and a night, just staying up all night, drinking a lot of soda. And that's why it's a very simple issue. Which is and so I first of all, the origin story of Super, that's taken right from Otto Binder, the original stuff. The idea that her planet died. The line that's in the preview that her planet did not die in a day.
Yeah.
Um, but that she was kind of on this asteroid, and then the asteroid went into space, and the asteroid turned into kryptonite, and that killed people. And then she put the lead in to stop it, and then these little asteroids broke the lead. All of that stuff is Silver Age. It sounds Silver Agey, right, when you say it out loud. But when you think about how harrowing that would be to live through that experience, I just kind of took the absurdity of the Silver Age thing and made it real and put it in the comic. Um, and having so almost no time to write that story. And again, very simple, like it's literally Supergirl running from a ball on a horse, is half the story, and the other half is retelling an origin story. So it's um and then I just wrote about my daughter. I wrote about sort of her spirit, and I wrote about the way I feel about her, and I've written a lot of stories, and that's the one that still make me cry because there's just some lines in there that are just meant meant for Claire. And I actually cut up a comic and put it on her wall, much to her chagrin. She's very embarrassed by all of this. And yeah, that's I took sort of that Silver Age idea. A lot of my comic success has been sort of taking ideas that I think people were throwing away and just taking them seriously and saying, what would that actually be like? And how can we use, because life itself, what we all go through every day, especially these days. is so freaking absurd and so not what we thought normal would ever be. Um, and so to use the absurdity of the Silver Age concepts as a metaphor for the absurdity we all kind of face in our everyday sort of been what I always do with comics.
On a slightly lighter note, you mentioned a horse. I want to talk about Comet for a second. Why did you
Yes.
want to include him? Because I'm very happy about it. I love the character, but it's quite an unknown character, and this specific iteration is a choice. What was the reason behind that?
I think Comet's one of those funny characters because at first you see, oh, well, comics were in the 50s, and of course you gave the Supergirl character a horse, like that's what every girl wants. And that's like if you just see Comet on a like, oh, like there's Beppo the monkey and there's Crypto the Superdog, and you're like, oh yeah, so there's just, but then if you actually know Comet's history, it's so bizarre that he was like he's not actually a horse. He's a centaur who's trapped as a horse, who wants to be a human, and he's madly in love with Supergirl. And so that there's this horse who's in love with Supergirl. So it's not just as simple as like, oh, she has a cute horse that she rides. It's actually this bizarre, um, unrequited love story. And so I wanted to. So first of all, I had the first of all, I'd written myself into such a corner. I was like, how can she defeat this thing? I was like, oh, she has to go fast. And I came up with the line of like, no man can outrun this, but you know who runs faster than a Superman is a super horse. Because just by logic, a man runs so fast, a horse runs so fast, so a Superman would run so fast, a super horse would run so fast. So, and then I saw, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna torture poor Bilkis because artists hate drawing horses.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's generally, but she liked it, so thank God. And well, she do the crap out of it. And then again, like obviously, it's all started out with Western, so doing sort of a Western theme. And then I knew eventually I would kind of do that a little bit of twist so that people could see that the horse is more complicated than just her pet. That this is a very bizarre and messed up history of this animal and Supergirl.
You mentioned about Bilquis and obviously Mateus. How did they get attached to the project and what was it like working with them? Because I have to say that I think this is probably my favorite comic art of all time. Like it's so instantly recognizable. It's so beautiful. It's
Oh my
detailed.
God.
It's amazing.
I mean, it's better to be lucky than to be good, really. And but it was nothing. I wish I could tell some great story where I was like, she is the one. Like literally, it was. I was like, I wanted to work on this, and again, Jamie Rich and Brittany Holzer, who deserves all the credit, were like, we have a list of artists. We were thinking maybe Bilkis Evely. I was like, yep, that's it. Stop. The list is done. That's yes, yes. She would be willing to do this. They're like, yeah, she's. I was like, yeah, I think we're good. We're good. So that was my only contribution was just to
Okay.
stop the list at the list. And then I was doing something for people who don't know about comics. Comics are often written out of order in the fact that comic writers will write. When I was on Batman, which was double ship, I'd write issue 16, then issue 24, then issue 32, then I'd write an issue of Mr. Miracle, then I'd write a sort of side project, then I'd come back and write issue 17. Like they're written out of order, they're not usually written together.
Yeah.
Sort of barely ahead of your artist is the way most comics are written. But because of COVID, I'd gotten so far ahead of my dialogue that I was delivering books all together. So I was able to give Bilkis the entire series. I was like, here's all 8 issues. Before she was done drawing issue 1, she had all 8. So I could say, here's exactly where we're going. And from that perspective, uh, like there's some artists, I work with Mitch Gerrits on Mr. Miracle. We're buddies. I talk to him every day. I talked to him this morning. He's
Got
a
a bit of a
producer.
bromance going on, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah, he's the best. Uh, and then there are some artists and Bilkis and I never, I mean, we never talked about it. We never Zoomed. We never got on the phone. We never did. She had all the scripts and she turned in the art and it was perfect every time. And I would just be like, perfect. And then Mateus would color it and I'd be like, lovely. And they're like me, they have lots of anxiety about their art form. And so they painstakingly would redraw stuff and recolor stuff, not from anyone's notes except their own to be like, we can do better. We can do better. And it just, yeah, look at the book. It's an art book. It shines, and there's so much emotion. Um, I always say that the final cover to Seven, which is just her sitting on a beach staring out. It Bilkis draws with the most lines of anyone. I mean, she could take Todd McFarlane to school. Um, but just with a few lines in Supergirl's face, she just conveys this just look of like that look of I've come to the end of that we all have after, a year where you just like cannot believe what happened to you and you cannot believe if you want to go on or don't want to go on. And she puts it all with a few lines in the face. I mean, Bilkis is just she's transcendent in her art, and I'm grateful to have her and Mateus to work with them as partners.
They are incredible, and combined the whole story combined just is one of the most beautiful books I've read, genuinely. We talked about Lobo at the beginning slightly. How have you? Sorry, I'm going to scrap that, and I'm going to start with a different question. What was it like to find out that your comic was being made into a film?
Bizarre. I didn't believe it. I still don't believe it. I'll believe it when it comes out.
But you've been involved in, well, have you been involved in the making of the film?
I've been witness to the making of the film, I think is a better way to put it. Yes, this was by choice. James Gunn and Peter Safran, who run DC Studios. I was been with them since the beginning, and they know exactly what they're doing, and they had a plan for it. And I trust in James Gunn. I trust his plan. And he was was kind enough to us to read the scripts. And to visit the set and all that stuff. But this was something where I was going to let people who knew what they were doing do the thing they knew how to do best. So yeah, I was witness to it, not a collaborator, I think is the best way to put it.
And obviously the comic book came out a couple of years ago. This now feels like a bit of a resurgence of that. What's that like as a writer? Have you found the response to it different to the first time round as what you're getting now? Because all I see on my timeline is people now reading Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
Oh my God, it's very weird. It's like I said, when not a lot of people read Supergirl on a regular basis or didn't back then. So much so that we couldn't make this 12 issues. Um, and it was I wouldn't say it was written for a small audience, but I knew it was not like I was on Batman. I was on the best-selling book, and that's a huge audience. And with Supergirl, it was gonna be much smaller, and I had hopes that it would kind of break out and do, what Mr. Miracle or even Vision did. Because I knew it was a special book. It felt special from sort of from day one. Um, but that meant, 20,000, 30,000 people would read it. Uh, the fact that now like millions of people are reading it, like you're just like, oh man, I should have spell checked it. Like you like you have no like it's gonna get such a microscope to this thing that I wrote. I wrote in 8 weeks 4 or 5 years ago, not thinking that it would hit an audience this big or this and but I have faith in this book. It's a bizarre book. I've written controversial books. Please, I tell my kids don't Google me. Like it's not a thing. Um, but every time someone buys this book, I was like, I have confidence that you'll like it. I don't know, like I don't say that about Mr. Miracle, something I just think is so great, or Human Target, something I think is so great. Not everything is to everyone's taste, but this has a very broad appeal. It's a kind of book that can be read by someone who's never read a comic book before, or someone who's read a million comics before. And I always wanted to write a book like that, and I didn't even realize I was writing when I wrote it. It's a complete story, so it's utterly frightening, just that so many people are finding it, and and I mean the art's brilliant, and I'm incredibly proud for it, and I hope it withstands the scrutiny. I think it does. Yeah, you just have to have faith. But yeah, I had no idea. I know, like, if someone had told me how many people were going to look at it, I really would have. I don't know. I would have
Been
checked
like
again.
reprinted multiple times. Like the one that I've been using to for the research is the kind of
Yes,
one
isn't
which
that so cute? Oh, I love it
oh,
so
it's so good.
much.
Yeah, it's just nice to carry around. Like you can just fit in your bag.
Yeah, you just throw it in your bag. Go, keep going. Yeah.
So you mentioned Lobo towards the beginning of the interview, and that he played the role of an older sort of character in the story. Obviously, he's in the film. We've seen that in the trailers. Have they taken your guidance on what his original role was going to be in
I,
your
I
film?
think I think I told that story at our very first sort of architects meeting or whatever. But I mean, I can't obviously speak to what I know about the movie without spoiling anything. But it's a complete coincidence. It wasn't like it was always, you know, the the creative team behind the movie, that was their call, not at all mine. And just a bizarre way the world worked that they has Lobo, and I was like, whoa, Lobo was supposed to be in this book from the beginning. Um, and to me, it's mostly amazing because the creator of Lobo was a friend of mine, Keith Giffen. He's since passed. And he was just the absolute best. I wish everyone could know him. He was the most curmudgeon-y, kind of cynical, but those kind of cynics who are actually our greatest optimists because they know how great the world could be and it's just not living up to their expectations. He was one of my sort of mentors and heroes in comics. And to get to see sort of some of what I had done, like characters like Ruthie interacting with the character Keith did, means so much to me just because Keith meant so much to me.
Yeah. And what's it been like to see? Obviously, you've spent so much time, or 8 weeks, writing these characters. Um, what, what's it like to see them brought to life and your story brought to life? I don't know how, I'm sure you've seen more than just the trailers that we've seen, but what's it like to see your story come to life in that way?
Oh, it's insane. Millie is so good. She just embodies the character. She utterly kills it. Um, I think it's, uh, what's that stupid line we all quote from Walt Whitman? I contain multitudes. I have multiple feelings. I get scared. It's frightening that something so out of my control will have part of my destiny tied to it. It's pride. It's disbelief. It's gratitude for all the incredible people who worked on this movie. Um, uh, uh, and I mean, uh, the craziest thing is, and it's of all the crazy things that can be crazy, is like, my daughter was going to a birthday party the other day, and she's like, I can't find a present. Dad, will you sign a Supergirl book for my friend? Like that just blew my
That's funny
mind. I
that
was
you
like,
made it though when your daughter's
yeah. That my kids who have obviously have zero respect for me, like, hey dad, I guess you did this. This was kind of cool. Like that's over the moon.
And sort of going back to when you actually wrote the comic of this, obviously you said this was crazy and you didn't ever imagine it, but did you picture people in your head when you were writing the comics? So for me, when I'm reading a story or whether it's a novel or a comic book, sometimes you kind of picture who you think the actor is in your head. Did you ever do that?
No, I don't think I did. No, that's not how I never cast people as actors when I'm doing it. Or if I do, I cast like old movie actors from the Hollywood in the 40s. Um, so that's probably closer to, like probably like a Barbara Stanwyck in my head or something like that. Um, but uh Yeah, no, I didn't. I mean, as soon as James said Millie, I thought it was brilliant casting. I'm a big um, Game of Thrones fan, and I just love what she did. So, and and then when I saw her in the costume, I've seen some of the scenes. Like, oh yeah, that's it. That's her. She embodies that sort of. It's similar to what I was saying about Keith. That idea of like someone who cares so much they have to disconnect themselves from how much they care.
Yeah.
Um, but then at some point that disconnection either either you repair it or it kills you, right? Like that's the idea. Like you can only hide behind those barriers for so long until your passion pours out. Like I can feel that in Millie's performance, and she does just a brilliant job.
Well, that's all that matters, though, isn't it? As long as they care about the project as well, then that's the main thing. I don't want to get you into trouble, but is there anything from the comic that, well, I don't know how much you've seen or how much you can say, but is there anything from the comic that you're excited to see in the film or that you would like to see in the film?
I, I'm just it's this is so silly, but my Ruthie is named after my niece, um, who's just the littlest, cutest person you've ever met. I hope you one day meet her. She's just like 3 feet tall, and she's just a fireball of energy. I think she was probably 3 when this happened. Now she's 8. Um, and I named it after her. And every time I go up to her and I was like, "You're gonna be in a movie." And her name is Ruthie Mary Knoll, which is the name of the character. I shouldn't even say that. Sorry, people probably stalk my poor niece. Uh, and so that I'm just most excited to see that and to go up to my niece and be like, "That's you. You're in the movie," and just see her. They made a toy of her, like a little pop, and I sent it to her mom, and then she like posed like the pop holding the sword, and I that yeah, that's yeah. So I just seeing Ruthie would be so cool. It's gonna be so cool.
Okay, so I mentioned this at the beginning, but you are now a comic book artist. So
Oh
you
God, no,
you are
no.
an official comic book artist. You have a cover coming out. I think it's out or it's out next
I
week.
am an Eisner winning comic book artist, I want to point out, because Mr. Miracle won the Eisner for Book of the Year. And as you know, when the comic book wins, the artist gets the award and the writer. I drew one page of Mr. Miracle, and so technically, as that page of that artist, I have an Eisner winning artist for that Mr. Now, it was the page that was supposed to look like what it would be if a 2-year-old draws. Um, but I don't think that should stop me from bragging about my Eisner winning art. Yeah.
Absolutely not. Um, so you've got a cover coming out with Danny Sunbeth. Is it Wonder Woman 32?
Oh God, I hope nobody buys it. Don't buy that cover. Don't buy the one that has my art. And I've done this before. It's for April Fools, and I hate it. I'm the world's worst artist. People keep coming up to me, and I draw these sketches for them, and every time, like, you are making a mistake. You don't want this, and they keep
Something that I
saying,
missed out on doing. I don't know why I didn't do it at San Diego Comic Con because next
"Oh
time
my
I definitely
God,
will.
don't ever." It's a horrible thing. Yes, I'm terrible at it. My hands have never liked my eyes. They have never been friends. I can't throw basketballs and hoops. Um, I was in the CIA. I was not. I passed the test, but I was not the world's greatest shot. Um, I'm just video games. Seem I just wipe out. I'm a terrible at all of them. So yeah, no, yeah,
Okay.
we've
Well,
not
we're
been
going to put you to
friends.
the test anyway. So normally when we have comic book artists on the podcast previously, we've asked them to teach us their take on how they would draw Superman. But obviously, since we've been talking about Supergirl, I would like you to teach me and the viewers how to draw Supergirl.
Oh my God, I'm terrible at it. All right,
Okay.
I have a piece of paper. Let me grab here.
So
So we're doing this. I don't have a.
yeah, well, I've got
Oh,
the
you've
same
got one
thing.
too. All
Yeah.
right, good.
So I'll
Uh,
draw it alongside you, so it's not just you drawing.
oh, okay.
And then I guess with each step we can show the drawings that we've done and you talk us through it.
Okay, I got 3 pens. You're gonna need colors for Supergirl. You're gonna need at
Okay.
least one pen that's either yellow or bronze. And
Well,
I also brought a blue because I'm go above and beyond.
I'm not that prepared. I've just got a great pen. So
How
we'll
dare you?
we'll
Um,
see how we go.
okay, so that's Supergirl here. I wish you could see me not do this. Um, so for Supergirl, first you need a circle
Mhm.
because that's how you draw. You got the circle there. That's pretty good.
Oh,
Oh, you nailed it. Okay, and then we're gonna draw a face on the circle. If you've seen my Wonder Woman video, I only have one way of drawing faces. So I draw 2 lines that'll go above the eyes as such, and then I draw little ovals underneath the eyes like this. This is already terrible. I'm sorry. This is so bad.
okay. Well, I've done a slightly different thing, but
Oh, you nailed it. It's freaking nailed it. I give her a little triangle nose, like it's a half a triangle going up, so without the underneath.
yeah.
Um, she looks super evil. You did a better job than me. Yeah,
I've drawn the
it
face the wrong shape.
it
Mine's
looks like a pumpkin.
big.
And then let's give her a smile, and I drew the so we just like we'll do a little kind of a curved line, and then we kind of give it off the side here, so it looks a little bit there. Now we have a very bald, evil man that we have drawn. Yeah, no, yours looks really good. You're doing great. Yeah, and then let's give her some eyeballs, just some dots in her eyes, so she's not like Annie from the old cartoon. Now she looks really evil. That's
It
someone.
doesn't look quite creepy.
She looks very creepy. Um, yeah, that's not good. So, anyways, that's really bad. We should give her some eyebrows. Just some light. Yeah. Now doesn't she look less creepy?
Yeah,
That's just
that's much
yeah.
better. Much
That
better.
that made it. That totally made it. Okay, I'm gonna make her fly before we give her hair. So you want to. I'm so sorry. I wish I did something better. So you take a line. You start from the bottom of your circle, and then you draw to the right and a little bit down. So like, you kind of
Okay.
going, yeah, right? Like that's
Yep.
not, yeah. And then we're gonna give her some arms because she's flying. So we're gonna draw like give her a little bit of a neck, like half an inch or so. Sorry, half a centimeter or so. I know half an inch is I'm terrible. And then we're gonna draw one line and then we'll just give her another line because people usually have two arms and then put one at the top. So there you got Lexi, right? We're killing it. And you'll notice that we got to the end of the page and without me drawing her legs, that's because I made a mistake. So
Okay.
we're gonna have to just kind of compensate and her legs will go down a little bit and then we'll do one off panel like that. So she's flying.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now we're killing it here. This is really terrible. Now let's make her this is the key to making her Supergirl because this could be any um this is so depressing. My God. This could be any very long line. But
Okay.
Supergirl has blonde hair. So we're gonna with your other pen, you're gonna need that's how you're gonna want to give her some hair. You're gonna give her long, straight hair. It helps if you have yellow or gold because Supergirl has
Yeah, so I'm
golden hair.
super,
See, so
super.
now it's looking a little more Supergirly here.
Okay.
Um, and oh yeah, no, but yeah, it's good. You're drawing the
Right.
old Zack Snyder Supergirl. That's good. And now she's gonna need a cape. So don't run into the hair and just draw a big kind of a little bit of a wavy rectangle off her back. It's just the worst. Yeah, no, your wavy rectangle is better than mine. So okay, and then you want to draw a Superman symbol. So Superman symbol is it's not a triangle. It's like you like draw kind of a top line and then like a bigger square and then you make it into a triangle. So it's kind of a pentagon kind of thing. It looks kind of like a first base in baseball, or I don't know what you do in cricket, but some sort of thing.
Don't ask me.
And then you want to draw an S in the middle of this thing like that. And then like that. It would help if we had red, but we don't. Um, so now we're getting closer to Supergirl. So now like our terrible, like at least people be like, oh yeah, that's a really bad drawing of Supergirl. Oh, we're killing it. We're killing it. Yours is so much better. Have you been doing this before me?
I mean, no. I mean, yours is pretty good. The colors make it.
Sure. Sure, sure. I'm gonna do a little blue in her cape here. Um I don't really have time to color quite right, but at least give it a little flow. Oh wait, Supergirl has a red cape. Oh my goodness. Well, this is a blue Supergirl cape.
Okay.
Pretend this is red.
The next suit, maybe.
Um, yeah, so that blue is supposed to be red. As we'll give her a blue suit. I can't believe I colored cape wrong. I'm the worst person. I don't have red. All I had was this. These are my only colors. This
Well,
is
to be
made a
honest, I was
mess.
only expecting you to get one color. You've
All
gone.
right, and now
You said you didn't want to do it. You went all out with the colors.
this is key to the whole thing. Okay, you get your black back, and then you want her to be flying in space because if you've read Woman of Tomorrow, she's in space. So we're just gonna make a lot of dots. So just like it's like up down dot kind of thing, right? So it's
Okay.
just dot 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 dot. This is like how Ryan Otley makes stars, if you know Invincible, and this will make all the difference in the world. So we can do this. Just yeah, this is the most fun part when you can't really mess this part. I can't believe I made her cape blue, but I think we understand that that happened and I can't. There's no delete on the video yet.
I mean, I could
Um,
cut it out, but it's quite entertaining.
okay, well, I'm killing it on these dots. I hope you're doing as good as I am because my dots look freaking amazing. Um, this is the most fun part. This is this is a little trick I use when I'm signing and I want my line to look long is just to do dots for a long time. So lots of people are in line because I'm not signing anything. I'm just doing dots on a piece of paper. You don't do dots inside the cape, even if you colored the cape blue by accident, knowing that
It
it
could
is
be
supposed to be
a
red.
suit that she wears in the future.
Yeah, no, this is an alt version of Subaru. Um, I'm gonna put here again red. So then, yeah, so you have your dots, so it's gonna look a little
Okay,
spacey. See?
I've gone.
Oh yeah, yours looks good, right? She's in space. And
Yeah.
now you want to make some of your dots, so then make a little bigger dots, like just like little blobs
Okay.
here and there. This will make it look more spacey, kind of. And then just a little emphasis dots. This is in honor of the people flying around the moon today. Um, and so see if we put some thicker dots in, then it
Okay.
looks little planets out there. And then do like a thick one and put a little ring around it so it looks like kind of like a Jupiter planet out there. And then do one that's like shaped like a moon. I don't know, that kind of thing. And then you do like, and then that's Supergirl. There you go. And then here's the key. You always write, uh, write something true on it. And what I always write is I'm sorry because I am so deeply sorry. And then you sign it. And then you have a Supergirl. And remember, as it says, this is red.
Nice.
You killed it. You killed it. Look at that. Well done.
And well done to
Oh
you.
man.
You're a good teacher.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna put that on the wall in my
Right.
daughter's room, and then yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Well, Tom, thank you so much. Thanks for taking your time. I know you're a busy man, but I've had a blast talking to you about Wonder Woman and about Superman, and I hope to see you at the next con.
Thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for being so supportive. I love your Superman Muhammad Ali shirt, by the way. I didn't say that. That's one of my favorite Superman stories of all time.
It's one
Neil
of the
Adams
things I bought.
was also a buddy of mine, and he was a very interesting human being and very cool to me.
I
And I
met
miss
one,
him.
I think that was the first time I went to San Diego Comic Con, but I was super unprepared and I didn't actually, I've got the comic, but I didn't bring it to get it signed, which I will always regret.
I wrote a comic book where where Batman meets Elmer Fudd. Um, and it's very absurd, and like Elmer Fudd has all this noir dialogue, but in his kind of wacky way. And
Mm.
Neil Adams went onto YouTube and recorded a live dramatic reading of my comic before I ever met him. And you can still find it on YouTube of Neil Adams reading my comic book out loud. And it
Yeah,
is
I have to,
very,
I
that's a
have to
very
find
bizarre
that.
thing in my life.
An honor,
Anyways,
though.
thank you on that note. I appreciate you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.